Mr. Zafar Sawan, editor of the Dhaka Tribune.
Thank you, Mahfouz Bhai. I hate to be the one to inject a note of pessimism into this discussion, but it seems to me going around the table there's a fair amount of consensus that the answer to journalism's problems is good journalism. And I have to say that I've heard this for the sort of last several decades. I've been going to journalism conferences, you know, various variants of this. Good journalism is good business, good journalism is the way out. And, you know, as with everyone sitting around this table in this room, I would like to believe that, but I have to wonder, is that indeed really the case? I think, for instance, let's look at some outlets around the world, something like The Guardian, for instance, which comes out of the UK, which is, to my mind, and I think to most people's, a superb journalistic outlet, but I believe last year it lost tens of millions of pounds. And I think this is something which we see all around the world. Various media entities, you know, now starting to navigate the new world in which we live. They're starting to navigate the transition from print media alone to print and online journalism in such a way as to make their finances not as perilous as they were. But I think there's a long way to go before we solve that crisis. And I think beyond this crisis, which has existed in the media world, at least in the world of print newspapers, transitioning to online and what that means for all of us over the last decade or so, we also have to look at the changes.
He was the leader of the Muslim League. He ran the Daily Observer, and his newsroom was manned by communist member from the Communist Party of Bangladesh, then the ultra-communists, then the Islamists, then the centrist Aumi League supporters. Everyone were there. But is it the case now? Is it the case in today's newspaper? We are just running the same clone newspaper with the same people, with the same ideology, and that's why we are just losing touch with the common people. But like a lot of people would say, okay, Hamidullah Chaudhry was a Muslim leader, but he had the like a sagacity of having every kind of people in the newsroom. But it's no more. As a result, we lost like diversity in our newsroom, and it is a big issue in our newsroom and television channels.
I am Shamsuddin. I worked with different newspapers. Journalism, the road to journalism had never been a bed of roses. It had always challenges, and it is also facing challenges now too. We are more concerned about the challenges before print journalism, probably, because as we have been discussing here, it is we are talking the issues of the problems of print journalism. I will not go into the problems of print journalism in the Western world and in English language, because we know what is happening in the Western world. Particularly in last 1 week, we have seen that how English journalism, print journalism, and the television journalism is not reflecting the views and the sentiment of the people, of the common people. In Bangladesh, we face the same problem, but here it is not the journalism. If the business of journalism is selling information and selling opinion, we are doing it fine. The problem is that the medium is changing. We have been doing it through the print medium. Now, in last 20 years, alternative media have emerged, and they are challenging us. So we are facing this problem, and we don't know. This is not a place where we can find out the solution to the problem. In Bangla journalism, we have a big problem, as our colleague from Anandabazar was saying, that we probably are not finding the right language to reach the people. We write something that is not the language of our readers. And I have an opportunity to meet young Bengali language journalists every week for a few hours. And I see that they are very bright people, they are very educated, they are full of life, but actually the problem is that we really do not know the language of the people for whom we are catering, to whom we are catering. This is a big problem, and if we look into the language situation in our country, in the 1960s, it will be difficult for our international colleagues, but for us, it was Sadhu language. Then we switched to Cholito language, which was not the mainstream language of the people. We are also faltering with the language. So the problem here in Bangla language journalism is probably finding the right language of the people and before anything else. Thank you very much.
I would like to call upon now somebody, a guest of ours who have been in major media institutions, but now she's doing things on her own. Independent journalist, Jyoti Malhotra from India.
Thank you so much. Actually, I just want to pick a bone with Zafar Sobhan. Zafar, if I understood you correctly, you said, did you say that the media is increasingly becoming the enemy? Is that what you said? No, okay, sorry. Because I wish sorry? The government is becoming...
Government is increasingly looking at media, various governments around the world, and I think we'll see this in the US, as looking at the media as their enemy.
But I would think that it would be a badge of honor for journalists to be considered the enemy of the government, frankly. Isn't it? I mean, unless we are in opposition of the government of the day, and unless you challenge the government of the day every morning and afternoon and evening on social media and anywhere else, why would you, I mean, that would be why we became journalists. Otherwise, we would be in government or elsewhere. So I think the fact that Prathamalo and Daily Star have been in the forefront of the fight in Bangladesh, and several Indian papers on this table, the Hindu and the Indian Express and others have been in India and elsewhere in the region, I think that's what marks us as journalists. Thank you, Mahfouz.
Thank you very much. I have a few foreign guests whom I will call upon, but unless my Bangladeshi friends raise their hand, I'll not call on you. So don't blame me at the end for not having given you a chance. So, yes, Mr. Kamrul Hassan. Islam.
Thank you. I think the problem of our media, not only in Bangladesh, but across Asia, even in the Pacific countries or even in Western media, the problem is we are now almost tend to disappear the Voltaire mentality. The government, the ruling regime, elite, those who are powerful, they don't pursue the Voltaire mentality, that I will protect the right of criticism. I will protect the right to oppose me. That mentality is now disappearing all over the world. And unless and until that mental change is occurring, the challenge of the media will be there. Of course, in Bangladesh, the quality and quantity wise, we have improved upon a lot, because nowadays, comparing 40 or 50 years back, our journalism has grown up, expanded, both in the print media and also in electronic media. But challenge is that we are now facing day in and day out the self-censorship, not the censorship which the powerful people are imposing on us, but we ourselves at times most of the times tend to have been pursuing that policy of self-censorship. And of course, all our ruling elites, they are not giving that democratic space. In our subcontinent, it is in galore. Lot of examples are there. So how do we can face this challenge will be not only determined from our own self, especially if we have a lot of quality journalists produced every year, every decade, then we can help protect that interest of free media. Of course, as Shafiq was telling that Hamdul Haq Chaudhary, he didn't ask his editors or fellow staffs to print his own picture in his own newspaper. But nowadays, we ask our colleagues to print our pictures, our news, our party news, our political news, which is not of interest of many people of my country, of my region, but we are imposing on our colleagues that space. So over the time, we are not serving the interest of the people, common masses. Mass people are ignored. The space in our newspapers, in our, say, electronic media, in our print media, are not providing adequate coverage of the common masses.
Thank you,
How we can improve that will be a huge, huge challenge in huge, huge democratic deficit. Thank you.
Thank you. Barbara from IPI,
Thank you.
International Press Institute.
Thank you very much. I wanted to follow up on the issue of the antagonism between journalism and governments. The fact that I fully agree that it is a badge of honor for journalists to be criticized by the governments, but I also believe that we are coming to a point where there is a lot of pressure on journalists and news media, and there has always been that way, but to a point where this is becoming acceptable, like that people perceive this as acceptable, that government feel legitimized to put not only pressure, because it goes far beyond that, because Raja said, they have the luxury of not being fair, and that is very true, that the pressure uses methods which are beyond what is legally or ethically acceptable, from economic pressure to putting in place laws and implementing them that goes beyond what is democratically acceptable, to violence, pure violence. And this is, and I think that is so important at this point, that we challenge this perception that it is okay because journalism is a dangerous profession. And yeah, it is, but it should not be, it doesn't have to be. So I would like, and I know that we don't talk about it very much because journalists don't like to talk about themselves. We don't like to cover the problems that we have, the attacks and the pressure that we suffer. But somehow it is increasing, and I think the new trend also that is coming after Brexit and the US elections, of this introspective trend is good, but let's be fair, also it's not only the media that has done something wrong, that is also the immense pressure and the challenges that the media is facing. So I think that is very important to state that that is not the fight is not fair anymore, the environment is not healthy anymore. Thank you.
Mr. Shirajul Kadir from Reuters, Bangladesh.
Very precisely, what problem I often face, or what challenge I often face, is that we have to follow two principles. Number one, accuracy, and number two, speed. During our coverage in sports story, these two principles we have to maintain. but it's very difficult in Bangladesh, maybe in other country, to access information, particularly to access reliable source of information is very difficult. And this is my major problem. And this problem also I face several times when we plan to do any in-depth story or inside story. That time we have to pursue a reliable source again and again, and it is very difficult to convince them to get information. Thank you.
May I now request our colleague, Mr. Taimur Raja from Assam.
Thank you very much. I will take only 5 to 6 minutes to share my views. Please bear with me. With the dawn of a new era of technology and hyperconnectivity, both national and international journalism will soon reach a crisis point. The print media is in danger of extinction, while the internet keeps on growing and growing. How can journalists now find their own voice and keep the profession alive and well amongst the shouting of millions of people? This is the kind of apprehension that has gripped the journalistic fraternity. But is there really a reason to push the panic button? Finding a correct answer to this question today is perhaps the agenda for the journalism tomorrow. Technology, as I have referred earlier, is often touted as the future of journalism. We are more connected than we ever have been before. However, this can have serious consequences when it comes to journalism. Although the news can be updated quicker than ever before, the sheer speed with which these interactions are allowed to take place ultimately damaged credibility. Often there simply is not time to fact check or proofread properly, which can lead to severe dip in journalistic quality. With the internet dominating our lives, there are more and more voices all shouting to be heard. Not that this is necessarily a bad thing. If the press can be called one thing, it's no longer elitist. Everyone has their own voice, whether on Twitter, WordPress, or Reddit. All these social networks are highly influential in their own right. And the internet has an answer for everything you ask. So how can quality journalists compete? By sticking to facts, by not sensationalizing needlessly and exhibiting rigor in their personal style, which is often sadly lacking in many internet posts. Can good journalism still thrive? If used in the right way, journalists can use technology to produce better quality articles much faster. Simple facts can be checked instantly, although care must be taken with emerging stories not to needlessly muddle or create errors. In short, integrity seems to be the key message there here, although this is admittedly much harder to do in a world where gratification and instantaneous, where you only have to press a few buttons to find the answer you want.
Sir, you need to be brief.
Yeah. Transparency, creativity, and exclusivity encapsulate the future of journalism. The future of journalism lies in credibility, which no technology can replace. In rate of race, breaking news journalism more often than not have to compromise with accuracy, objectivity, and accountability. This is the real challenge for journalism tomorrow, how to stick to the bedrocks of journalism, yet taking the advantage of the new media is the question journalism has to find an answer to sooner rather than later. Another point calls for
Sir,
a special mention.
Please, we're running out of time.
We should not be worried because when we come to know that the Google CEO, Mr. Sundar Pichai, needs to read the Wall Street Journal on a regular basis to follow economics and business in the USA and abroad. We have indeed to point for the broadsheets. I own and edit a Bengali regional daily which has a circulation of over 50,000. I started journalism in the stage of news agency and later
I have to cut you short, please.
Yes, a journalist is accountable to truth and truth only. So long as there is future for truth, there is also a future for journalism. Thank you.
Thank you very much. May I now request Mr. Prakash Dubey? He is the group editor of Doinik Bhaskar. It is, I think, the largest vernacular daily in India. It is really a grand success. We would like him to share with us what is the secret. Mr. Yearwood, I'm saving you for the last because as the IPI chief, I would like you to give us a global view of what's happening. So please bear with me. Yeah.
Thank you, Mahfouz Bhai, and good morning. If I put the things very bluntly, there is only one challenge. A, you as journalist, you as newspaper, you as media want to ask question, and the vested interest doesn't want you to ask question. B, you want to tell something, and the vested interest is afraid of the things that you are going to tell something which will go against them. And it does not include only political parties, political system. Actually, it includes corporate as well. I'll just very briefly give one example. In 1977, when there was emergency, elections were there, one of the candidates won when he was behind the bars. Name was George Fernandez. He had been to, after he came out of the jail, he had been to his constituency, that is Muzaffarpur, Bihar, which is not very far off from Dhaka. When he reached there, he wanted to get water, drinking water. He was offered Coke. He said, no, I don't. Get me water. So in the whole constituency, it is a district headquarters, and there was no drinking water there. But if you put as an interesting story, even the corporate sector will be very happy. But if you ask question, why is it so? Then there will be problem. Because it is very correct, in every country, including India, now everything is very costly. Democracy is very costly. If you want to contest an election, then you have to get money. And from where you get donation? Nobody, no candidate, no political party wants that you ask that question or reveal the answer. That is the problem. Now, judiciary, if you want to get justice, you know the courts, they are really very costly in this region of the world. Even the newspaper, if you want to produce your newspaper, it is very costly. So now you want, I think everybody talks about objectivity and credibility, but now you have to fight with the speed. If you go fast, then sometimes you lose credibility. Then you say, what is the problem? If this is the problem, then what is the way out? So I would like to tell you, if sitting in Dhaka, you remember the cluster of Sundarbans, because that is the new readership, then you will get success. If those who are in Delhi or any metro cities of India, they don't forget Port Blair and Andaman, then there will not be a problem. This is my observation. The newspaper in which I work, there are 5 largest circulated dailies in the world. Out of them, 3 are from Japan. You know the population of Japan. First 2 are from Japan. Third one is from USA, that is USA Today. And fourth one is the newspaper in which I work. I don't want to name it for the obvious reason, because it is no forum for any publicity. The last sentence, if you get new readership, you just try to don't lose the present readership, you are a success. Thank you.
Thank you. Editor of Quencel, the other is the managing editor of the same paper. So I would request the editor kindly to say a few words.
Into jacket, what our colleague has just now said. So, media in Bhutan have to depend on government advertisement for revenue, and there is no space for professional growth. And private newspapers are affected the most, as they have to please the advertiser, the government, for business. As a profession, journalism in Bhutan is not recognized as much as with others. This is a huge challenge for aspiring journalists. As a result, the quality of journalism has drastically gone down, with editors and reporters leaving their profession for other better opportunities. So the Bhutanese media have a long way to go to improve professional skills and the quality of journalism. Thank you.